Hi again. In this video I'm going to explain you how I set up the test environment, and specifically how I set up, so I needed the MongoDB and Kafka to be running, and I did that already for the dev environment, but when I did that for dev environment I had just one instance of Kafka and one instance of MongoDB, and I wanted the setup that is closer to the how the Kafka and MongoDB would run in production. So I wanted at least couple of instances of both, so to run them in a cluster. So this code for this project can be found as usually on the GitHub. It's under RTMKV, github.com RTMKV, kaboom-test-environment. And I have a read file here open that explains what I did. So I run Mongo in a cluster of 2. One of those instances in the cluster will become a master instance, and another one will become a replica. And I also run the Kafka in a cluster of 2. Both those instances of Kafka will become the Kafka broker that you can write to or read from. And to be able to run Kafka in a cluster of 2, I needed 3 instances of Zookeeper. I found that out through the experience, and so basically Kafka needs the consensus from the Zookeeper, and you need at least 2 Zookeepers running for Kafka to start in this setup. And at least 3 Zookeepers in total. So let's go and quickly speak about this project, so how I did it. And well, this is based on a Vagrant file again, so I have 2 virtual machines. And when I set up my dev environment, one virtual machine was running Kafka and one virtual machine was running MongoDB. So in this case I have 2 machines, and each of the machine will run one instance of Kafka and one instance of Mongo. So while I'm speaking about that, I will just go on my command line, and I start now my Vagrant instances, and hopefully it works. And while it is happening, I'm going to explain you what I did for this project. So I have here I describe here the machine, the type of the machine I'm going to use. So it's going to run under VirtualBox. With every machine will have 2 GB of RAM, and I have 2 servers here. So I give them static IP addresses in my private subnet. I'm using the Ubuntu 18 for both of them, so that's Ubuntu Bionic 64 version of Ubuntu. And here I open up the whole bunch of ports that allow MongoDB and Kafka communicate. So we have here a standard port for MongoDB, we have here a standard port for Kafka, and I have here a lot of ports for Zookeeper. Zookeeper uses different ports for different purposes. And since well, I have here on first server I have 2 Zookeepers running, I needed a lot of ports for that. So all those ports that you need, you can find them on the official Kafka and Zookeeper website. So there is nothing that I basically invented. So I just have those 2 machines, and well, on those machines I'm running the Bootstrap scripts to set up MongoDB and Kafka. And we're going to go and look a little bit through those scripts. So how I structured those folders, so I have a bunch of folders named Kafka something, and a bunch of folders named MongoDB something. So we have Kafka common folder, and here I have 2 scripts that are common for both machines. So one of the scripts is basically just creating the Kafka topic when I'm going to write my events. So in this case, notice also that I used the replication factor of 2. So finally we can here have this replication factor different than 1, and which makes it, of course, more like a production environment. And I have a shutdown script that just shuts down Kafka. And I have 2 folders that contain scripts and configuration files that are specific to the machines. And just again quickly mention that I also have here folders called Kafka logs. So similar to what I did in my development environment, I mapped the folder on a virtual machine that Kafka uses to write logs on my folder under Vagrant folder on a host machine. So every log file that is written by Kafka, I can also open up just on a host without need to go and SSH into the virtual machine. I did the same thing for Mongo, so that's one of the things that I recommend to do because it really simplifies diagnostics. So I have here the server properties. That's a server file for running Kafka. So you notice here they have the one as a broker ID. So this is a property that defines, just basically sets the ID for the broker. So the Kafka instances are called brokers, and I have two of them. So under the Kafka 2 folder, I will have the Bootstrap SH that will have I will have a server properties server.properties file that will have broker ID set to 2. And that's basically what allows me to distinguish between those two brokers. So couple of things. So most important properties in a Kafka configuration file are listeners and advertised listeners. So listeners is where you go and contact the Kafka cluster to for initial contact. That can be any broker, and here I'm saying that I'm going to be listening on all interfaces, and I provide 4 zeros as an IP address for that. And once you contact any of the Kafka brokers, it will return you the broker that is responsible for the partition that you going to use, and that's what this advertised listener is for. So we're going to the Kafka broker will advertise back this endpoint for the partition, and this is the IP address of that second server and the port of Kafka. So the similar thing I did for this first server. So I also had to set up Zookeeper. So we have here the Zookeeper properties files, property files, and here I specify that my Zookeeper will run in a cluster of 3, and first 2 Zookeepers will run on the first server. So you have here the same IP address. So but you will have the different port to distinguish between two Zookeepers, and the third Zookeeper server will run on the second virtual machine. So for Mongo, so I have here under Mongo common, I have couple of common scripts. Again, I have the script that creates the necessary collections in the MongoDB, in the Mongo database and indexes. I have here the script that sets up the two MongoDB instances to run in a cluster. So here I provide the endpoints for both MongoDB instances, and I specify the ID of the replica set. So to make that work, I have the config files for the MongoDB, and well, it's actually common for both of them, and that config file it uses that rs0 as a name, as a value for the property named rebel set name. So that's the name of your replica set. It has to be the same in the configuration file you provide in a script that you use to set up the replica set. So that's basically what I did. So let's see if machines have started. So yes, I have them started. So one of the things that I really found very useful is to use the Kafka cat to diagnose how the Kafka is set up. So if I copy this line from here, and I actually have to go and SSH to one of my servers. Let's go to the server 1, and now I'm in the server 1. If I run this Kafka cat here now, so what I get back, I'm getting back the information that is the metadata that that Kafka broker returned, and you see that it contains 2 brokers. So basically this confirms that I have my Kafka set up in a cluster, and both brokers participate in that cluster, and I have here information about the topics as well. And for the diagnosing how the zookeeper runs, we can just use telnet. So let's telnet on one of the zookeepers. So now I just have to type stat, and we have here the reply from the zookeeper. And what is interesting here, I believe that well, yeah, this one is followers, so that's one of the most interesting properties, that one of the zookeepers will be actual leader and two of them will be followers. And I think the other properties are also interesting. I don't now I don't remember anymore what how to read them, and that's not really that important here, but sometimes you just need to know if the zookeeper runs or not, so you can telnet on that zookeeper and see. So that concludes this this video, and so this is basically how I set up MongoDB and Kafka to run in a cluster for testing. So see you next video. Bye.